Hi, I'm Pastor Mira. This past week, we continued our sermon series of being a disciple and talked about what does it mean to give our presence to our church and to Jesus. We looked at the story in the book of Mark of Jairus and his daughter, where he goes to plead with Jesus because his 12-year-old daughter has been sick. As he's pleading with Jesus, Jesus is then distracted because the woman that is bleeding pulls on his garment and seeks his attention and his healing. In the meantime, Jairus' housemates, those that are working for him, they come and tell him that his daughter has passed away. Jesus says to him in that moment, "Do not fear, only believe." And from there, eventually, Jesus walks back to this family's house. He sees the little girl in the bed and says, "She is sleeping, she's not dead." Can you imagine if you are a parent, your little girl had died, mourners are at your house, everyone in the community knows that she's passed away. And Jesus got distracted as he was to come to the house. Then he arrives and says, "Oh, she's sleeping, you're wrong. She's not really dead." Well, this is the story that we looked at this week, and as we looked at that story, we talked about what is the faith of this father, how the father had his hope in Jesus, believed that even though the girl was dead, Jesus could make a difference, and brought Jesus to his home to meet his little girl and then eventually to raise her from the dead. We also talked about the importance of our presence. In this whole story, Jesus starts out on the lakeside, and he could teach a whole crowd of people, yet when this father comes, he says, "I'll go with you to heal one girl." There's many stories in Scripture where Jesus takes time away from a crowd to help one person, whether it's the leper or the bleeding woman, or whether it's this young girl. Our presence is likewise just as important. We need to be present to help the children and the youth and each other in our congregation, to learn about Jesus, to meet Jesus, and to learn to rely on Jesus. This past Sunday, we celebrated Children's Sabbath, a time with the Defense Fund and the United Methodist Church where we recognize ministry of children in our church, but also the need in the children in our communities and in the world who are in need of protection and help. As we did that, we talked about how important it is, just like Jesus, to make a difference in the life of one person. So the challenge this week comes from the Scripture, how Jesus made a difference in this one girl's life. He raised her from the dead. How can we take time in our lives to make a difference in the life of one person, whether it's a child or a youth or an adult, so that they could hear the words of Jesus? Do not fear, only believe.